Did anybody get into the drive?
I did.
Okay, so I have
was
always, you'll see it right there, I set it up that there's always a declaration. It's not hard to package, I put it, so you'll see September, or October, or whatever we are
In
today.
that same drive.
In that same drive, you'll see meetings, and then it's right underneath that, it's gonna be declaration of conflicts of interest, the form is there for always.
Usually have in my briefcase, or in my case.
We're on recording now.
Just in case somebody shows up. I wouldn't want to offend somebody that runs in the door. Usually former Mayor Brown is the only one that comes. Oh, give them their 30 seconds. It's not in this one. Usually the declaration right after that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Now therefore be it resolved that this September 24, 2024 regular meeting of council be called to order at 6 o'clock. And note that quorum has been achieved. In a mover and a seconder,
I can.
Councillor Manson and Councillor Grant. Next, resolution, and now therefore be it resolved, the council for the corporation and municipality of Calvin hereby approves the agenda as circulated with one minor amendment. We're moving 7.2, oh no, 7.3 to the earlier in the agenda so that,
8.1 and 7.3 and 8.1.
and 8.1. So the three reporters can leave. And there's also a change in 7.2. Time and date has changed on the documents that you have. All in favor? That's the last motion. This motion I didn't move in a second. Same Councillor Manson and Councillor Latimer. All in favor? And I as well. I know 6 o'clock, there must be somebody's fire alarm pager. Is there any declarations of disqualifying pecuniary or conflicts of interest from any?
None.
Next item is, now therefore be resolved that the minutes for the regular council meeting of September the 10th be approved as presented and circulated. I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Manson, Councillor Latimer. All in favor? All in favor, carried. No, there's no delegations tonight. The consent agenda items, anything you want to pull out of that to speak to? In a mover and a seconder then for the, therefore be it resolved, the council for the corporation and municipality of Calvin hereby receive the consent agenda items as circulated. Councillor Grant, Councillor Manson, all in favor? All carried. Next item on the agenda is chief, oh, sorry. We moved ahead for the building. 7.3. There he is. Dane, you're up.
I'm up for what?
Oh,
The new date point.
Good one.
Oh,
They're not.
We have a report from the building officer. 4 permits were issued. Any comments?
No seconder.
Mover and a seconder. Counselor Manson, Counselor Grant. Any comments? All in favor? Accept the report. Carried. It's part of the same thing.
8.1 now. Big final.
Okay. Great for just did that. Oh, I think that's at the back. No, I don't have this one package. Okay, we have another resolution. For a bylaw 2019-27 being a bylaw to establish municipal building procedures, regulations, and prescribed permit fees and other fees as applicable to building related matters, and Schedule A of bylaw 2024-47 being a bylaw to consolidate municipal fees and charges are required to be reviewed annually. Whereas council has received, discussed, and considered the CAO and chief building official reports relating to building inspection service fees. Now therefore be it resolved that council for the municipality of Calvin direct staff to promote a public consultation meeting regarding their proposed revised building inspection service fees, which are as follows.
So the point of tonight is you received the package on Friday, I believe, the building code officials put together a summary of comparables and neighboring municipalities for all of the fees. And there are a number of bullet points in that motion that we have to address tonight to come up with the fee that council wants to either change, remain the same for our building services fees and refunds. So Councillor Morton had given everyone a little bit of a heads up, if you could pay particular attention to this piece of the package that will come tonight, prepared with a proposed fee that then will go out to public consultation with a notice before we can enter into bylaw. That changes. So right after the motion, you'll see dated May 29th, 8.2. Up in the top of the right hand, are the comparable fees for building now. And then the next page over is the building fee comparison. Boston East Ferris, Chisholm, North Bay, Bonfils, Shane, I believe are not valid any longer.
That's correct, yeah.
Do you happen to know? You didn't know that?
No, I never. I just know that they changed their basic fee for a dwelling to $4,000.
And then there's Papineau, Cameron, Matawan, just to, just maybe begin the conversation, because it is a conversation that we need to have tonight, is when you look at the fees, we're right now the lowest in the, I would say, region. Highest, might surprise you, is Matawan. Have a peek at the variance and the cost there. And I believe Bonfield isn't as high as Matawan, sorry. They didn't get close.
Well, they're two different total ways of figuring out fees. There's so many different ways you can do it, right? You can have a flat rate, you can have a building cost, you can do square footage. There's different ways you can figure out building fees. So right now, Papineau's and Calvin's are pretty comparable. Calvin's are a little bit lower when in the smaller buildings, and you get into a bigger building, and Calvin's are a little bit higher than Papin.
And we talk about development all the time, encouraging people to come. It's something that you want to consider, of course, when you're revising the fees. And there is a cost to everything, Telek engineering, or, we'll end up with fees there, your fees. So it's not that we can wipe away fees, because there is a cost to the development and administration of that, but what we charge is council's decision in each of these. I'm gonna lean on Shane for any more questions that you might have about that.
I have a question. If I may. When you submit the report and it shows the value, so the total monthly value on this one was 63,500. What I'm trying to ascertain is the relationship, like basically how much money the municipality gets back. If someone buys a permit, develops a new home, I'm trying to figure out basically, does that 635,000 represent the approximate valuation of the completed project, or how does that figure, right? What is that?
It's supposed to be based on construction cost. That's what that's totally based on. So it really in Calvin has nothing to do with the fees that are charged. The fees in Calvin are a flat rate. And then after so many square meters, it's $30 for every 10 square meters above that.
Right.
So when it comes to dwellings, 50 square meters is the basic fee, so that's the $475. And then after you get over the 50 square meters, every 10 square meters is another $30. So in Calvin, the fees are based on that formula. I said a lot of municipalities do construction costs. Then that number would come into play in the amount of fees you collected.
I'm thinking that number, that 635, would that then be an approximation of the value after it was completed?
Yes,
So my logic and thinking is that's gonna drop in through MPAC into the municipal tax assessment.
yes.
And then the following year, we're gonna earn, say, 1% or something like that off of that. So I wanted to get a sense of, what that number was to see how much we're getting the very next year, usually back from a resident.
Right, so again, construction costs it's supposed to be the amount it costs you to build your house or your garage or whatever the case may be, right?
Right.
So MPAC has their own set of standards for how they do assessments.
Mhm.
Again, that's a question for MPAC.
Right, so theoretically, they're related, but they're not directly.
Exactly.
I see.
I have a question. At the bottom, the note at the bottom of the building fee comparison, it says Calvin doesn't have development fees. I don't know if you can answer this, or perhaps the CEO can answer it. Do the other municipalities have development fees?
Well, I can answer the three municipalities I look after, which is Papineau, Calvin, and Matawan. None of them have development fees. Development fees, they've waived them for a number of years now, trying to encourage development. Development fees to get into Southern Ontario can be a lot of money, $20,000 for a dwelling.
And is that working by waiving development fees? Doesn't seem to be working in Calvin. I just question not having development fees, because for every new residence, it puts pressure on the landfill, and pressure on the roads, etc. Maybe, I don't know if it's needed or not in our municipality, but just a question why we wouldn't have them. What the logic is behind that.
Yeah, I can't answer to that other than previous councils decided they didn't want development fees, so it's totally up to the council. Same with building fees, it's totally up to the council if they want to raise building fees. It's what your objectives are, whether you want to, encourage development or you want to recoup costs of the building department. And, those are all things that you have to consider when you're talking about building, so.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. You mentioned a fee of $475.
Yep.
But there's nowhere on here that the same fee. Is that a compilation of certain fees or?
The 475 is the base fee for a dwelling.
Okay, but here you, under Calvin for 1,200 square foot. It's
Okay, but
$685.
those are just strictly numbers I use for comparisons to other municipalities. You have to look at Calvin's building fees to see the 475 for a dwelling and for the first 50 square meters.
Yeah,
And that's Calvin's building fees now. So with that chart you're seeing there is strictly the numbers I use
Yeah.
for like a generalized dwelling for different municipalities.
Because it's $475 for the base fee, and then it's $30 for every extra 10 square meters.
yeah. So you're paying
So then that's gonna, at 1,200 square feet, I'm assuming that's gonna add up to your
685. Yep, okay.
That's where I think, so it would be 1,300 square feet would be a different price.
If you look at the current bylaw, a few pages over,
Yeah.
page 5 of 5 has the current fees that we need to compare to the motion tonight to fill in the blanks.
Is this just general discussion at this point now?
Yeah.
As well? Okay. From a resident standpoint, I'd like to hold the line on the current set of fees. As a counselor, when I change hats for a second and look bigger, I feel the same. And I'll explain why. The building permit fees, that's the one thing where we get a payback. So they drop into the tax system, and then we're very, well, upon completion, we're getting paid. So I would like to have a low-cost, attractive building environment. I did see in the media, in the news, that there was some neighboring municipality getting a little bit of lash back from some elevated building cost fees. And I, as a resident, might feel the same if mine went up a lot. So those are my thoughts, that we can afford to keep a low fee and be competitive and be unique. And because we will get that most of the time recouped, I'll say within a year, and then you're moving forward with presumably full cost recouping in a year or two.
That's one reason.
I have another question for Shane. How many new homes are being built in Calvin this year?
2,
And last year?
I don't know. I'd have to look. I couldn't tell you offhand.
Well, how many, could be that many? 10, 21?
Sometimes 2, sometimes 3. There's been as many as 4 or 5 in a year.
Okay.
We're not talking somebody coming in and building 100 homes. Yeah. Any recommendations on the fees? There's a note here at the bottom about if we raised it $50 from the current $30, it give you those fees. And then about another community that raised their fees to $4,000, which is like quadruple their current fees, which I'm sure Councillor Manson mentioned. Yes, sir.
I can share a few comments here. I think now's a good time. I think, I just, obviously, we're compared to organized townships, but we also have neighboring unorganized townships, which would have and I just wanted to make note of that as well. And you know, it's a unique, service that we're offering. It's a forced service. Um, people, are forced to get permits. Um, and basically, and it's largely seen by the majority of people as a penalty that people have to pay. But what's interesting is after those permits are closed, we basically, aside from a demolition permit, we recoup those costs over time for, until there's a demolition permit. So this is a, revenue generating, it's the only, basically one of the only ways it's the principal way, the main way that we generate revenue is through the tax base. Um, I think I would support a, small, might not even seem small percentage wise, but basically where I would like to see it go, in my opinion, at this point in the discussion is there's a recommendation to go from $30 to $50, or a suggestion, a possibility, let's say. And I think that that's something that might make sense. I think there should be I would support some sort of small increase. And I think that most of the other things, especially, the permits for decks and small things, I think it should remain, very cost effective for people so that, that we're gonna get some development, we're gonna get some growth through there and people aren't gonna say, well, I'm gonna build a $1,200 deck and the permit's gonna cost me, $350. That's a significant percentage of the cost. So I support keeping those smaller things low. I like the idea of I like the way we have it set up right now with the base fee, and then a square foot increase above that. So I would support maybe going from 30 to 50, on the square footage side. Leave the base fee alone, leave most of the other fees alone, in my opinion. And one last thing I think, would be important is, I think notice is important, allowing people that have projects, maybe they've, even bought material, maybe people have projects in their minds. I think that, these changes should come into effect, in a new year. So, January 2000.
So we have to review and these annually. So it's either, if I'm thinking about what you're saying, it's stay as is, and then next year look to increase. This is
Well-
for the balance in 2024. We should have been doing this at the beginning of the year with all of
Well,
our.
maybe we have to change our schedule. I feel like to have a meeting and then just to make changes is, in my opinion, this is not ideal. People could be sitting on projects and we'd actually encourage them to move forward on those projects if they have a period of time, if they know that there's an increase coming. I haven't read the specific bylaw, but if it mentions we have to review annually,
Right.
I think we'd be in compliance with a review, and then the changes could possibly come later. I just think that could actually promote some growth as well, when people know, hey, the fees are going up. Okay, well, let's move on this project, right? So that was something that was, I thought was important to me. So I don't know, that's my kind of spiel. That's what I had written down. I'll put it back to the floor.
Councillor Latimer.
Yeah, I think we should look at the fee schedule, and maybe if we're in the middle of the bottom quarter of the table that was shown, not the lowest, but below midpoint, somewhere in that range, and recoup some of our losses or our costs for inspections, etc. I don't think, personally, I don't think the building permit, cost of building permits is what's restricting development in Calvin. And, we could make it zero and probably still wouldn't attract anybody other than the people who want to come and build here. Yeah, anyway, so I'm in favor of a small increase. Get us off the bottom of the table.
I'm going to direct you to the resolution, the last paragraph where it's talking about directing staff to promote a public consultation meeting regarding the proposed revised bill. So if we make a proposed revised service fee, public is gonna get consulted on before we enact the bylaw. Right? So it's like we're just making a recommendation tonight and then the public's gonna be advised and any feedback would deal with at the next meeting. So for sure,
Whatever the notice period is.
whatever the notice period is. Does that change any of your immediate thoughts on things for tonight?
So you're asking us to come up with a number tonight, which would go out for public review? Is that what you're saying?
Councillor Grant, and you suggest a kind of small increment, whether it be for, as mentioned in the report, moving it to 50 from 30. Which seems to be it would move a 1,200 square foot dwelling from 820. Or from 685, 825, which would be $130 difference.
Using 470 base, where right now it's 400 in the bylaw.
So I 75.
Cause it's,
That must be an old,
So the 29,
since 2019, I forget the year, but it was changed to 475 because there used to be an occupancy fee of $75. And they combined it with the base fee and made it 475 just for the permit, and then there's no occupancy.
so the bylaw,
Yeah, that 400 is
because
right,
the occupancy
475.
fee is in this one as well.
So it would seem fair to the public if we left that at 475, because for the last couple of years they've been paying that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just conversation forward. I would support some small increases, you know, keep us, I'd like to be, you know, around Papineau anyways. I don't support, increases to be, you know, comparable. But, I think that, you know, we could definitely, maybe we could agree to go from $30 to $50, per square foot. Beyond that flat rate. I don't know if that's agreeable to people or not.
So that would bring us for a 1,200 square foot dwelling up to about 825. I think I heard that.
Correct.
And that would, Papineau right now sits at 800. That's a recent comparison. Yeah, I'm good with that.
without a permit, I don't see it in the bylaw that's in front of us.
Yeah, again, at the same time that they went to the 475, they created a administrative fee for somebody applying for a permit of $500. And after a certain, same thing, $10 for every $3 for every 10 square meters.
So that's currently at 510.
Yes. That previous council decided for, because it's, I was chasing after people to get permits. It was like an extra fee for the cost of me having to chase after them to get them permits, and that's what the previous council come up with for an administrative fee. Yes.
And 10. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so 505, these fees you're talking about.
Yeah, I just don't see it on there. And Shane is saying that the wrong bylaw, the most up-to-date bylaws of what's got put in.
Yeah. Most up-to-date fees.
So the we're recommending here move 50 from 30, but we're not moving the base fees, but we got to speak there so we can tell the public.
And the base fee is $475.
Yes.
We
Without a next one.
I have 5, on that page.
on the bylaw. Tonight.
Yeah. Oh, let's see, I'm looking at this page 505,
It's not on there.
that should be,
It's not there.
yeah,
So it's at 10, and we're leaving it at 10 and moving it up 500 plus $10 is what it's currently at per square meter. For 10 meters, sorry. This is gonna be a long night.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's.
This is why we
It's not,
said to prepare.
the two don't line up.
Should we, if we are increasing it, should there be some logic behind our increase, say an inflationary increase of whatever X amount applied as a percentage across the board, as opposed to arbitrarily picking an amount? Again, I think that, just my position, these pay for themselves within usually a couple of years, so I'm fine being at the bottom of the list. I'm proud to be at the bottom of the list on building fees, I like that. But, you know, I will support a small increase along the way as well, inflationary in nature. But I do think that because this does repay, why place that extra, why increase the burden on someone developing a building when the money's gonna come back very quickly,
It will eventually.
eventually.
I agree with the small increase, because we do have to account for the increase in the cost of the building official. But the small increase basis on the recent increases because of the, COVID and the recent contracts, et cetera.
Yeah, and just to the idea of a percentage, I think it's logical to say, you know, we can do a 5%, but unfortunately, I think we have some really nice even numbers, which makes it far easier for everyone
Five to the next 10.
Yeah, I don't want to get stuck in with change and stuff on these fees, right? So if we are gonna say maybe do like a 5% increase or something, let's just keep it, you know, to round it to a nearest $5. But you know, I would support a small increase, you know, maybe a $5 increase on the fees. You know, just to try to keep up with everything, and try to recoup some costs there. I just personally just want to keep it. And then, you know, this has got to be reviewed every year as well. So I just want to keep it, my opinion, keep it, you know, reasonable, and not get too carried away. Let's
So
just,
staff have to send this out to the public. All I'm trying to do is help them with this front page of 8.1 with what the proposed fees are gonna be.
But if we say, if we use, for example, Councillor Dean's, if that's what you're going, this 5% increase rounded to the nearest $5, we'll fill in the blanks.
yeah, which I think makes sense.
Except for the new buildings and buildings without a permit.
Yes, that, you know, that we agreed maybe to go from 30 to 50 per square foot, meet the base fee. I think we are agreeing.
Does that have to be added into the resolution?
I'm writing it up. If that's what you're going with.
If we're on the, while she's writing this up, before she writes it all up, and then we turn it down before, are we all in agreement with it? What she's writing up, yes, I see it nodding, a whole bunch of nodding heads.
I'm just writing the
I don't
bottom line here.
I don't want you to write it all up and then everybody say, no, I don't want that. I don't think I would be out of order by asking for a mover and a seconder while she's writing it up, and then we'll ask our CAO to read it all in her own handwriting, then we can have a vote after that. How's that? Have a mover and a seconder, please. Counselor Vladimir and Counselor Madsen.
So whereas bylaw 2019-027, being a bylaw to establish municipal building procedures, regulations, and prescribe permit fees and other fees as applicable to building related matters, and Schedule A of bylaw 2024-47, being a bylaw to consolidate municipal fees and charges are required to be reviewed annually. And whereas council has received, discussed, and considered CEO and chief building code official reports relating to building inspection service fees, now therefore be resolved that council for the municipality of Calvin direct staff to promote a public consultation meeting regarding the proposed revised building inspection service fees, which are as follows. New buildings, except for accessory buildings, a 5% increase rounded to the nearest $5, except for and including new buildings and buildings without a permit, $500 plus $50 for each additional 10 square meters. And the balance is the 5% increase rounded to the nearest $5.
All in favor?
I just, if I, is, could be self-described, I just, I think it makes sense, I just back to my last point, was just on when these would come into effect. I suppose, seeing as it's not tonight, I suppose that would satisfy my suggestion that we don't, that we give time for people to, if they're sitting on the fence on a project, they might want to just jump on it. I mean, the increases are not massive, but, so I guess I just want to make that comment. I think that would meet then. I do feel they should come into effect January 1st, but as long as we're giving time, we're giving consultation, Shane's aware, people asking questions, I suppose that would.
$5 increase, so the rest of the.
Yeah, it's minor.
$5.
Minor, but yeah,
Our next meeting is the 8th of October, and the one after that is the 29th of October.
The public consultation notice is longer, so it'll be
Oh,
that, yeah.
It'll be November.
Yeah,
so that meets, that, I'm satisfied with that then. I'm thinking as I talk.
No, then that'd be November the 12th or the 26th.
So let's not even put the date
No,
on there yet,
okay.
because we have to check out the notice period and it's not tonight.
It's not tonight. All in favor? Carried, all carried. I'll give that back to you because I didn't get one.
You might have had it with your package the other day when we reviewed them, or that all there.
So we're finished with,
Sure.
okay. Thank you very much for coming tonight, Shane.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Shane.
Been a while.
Is that the 8th of October, the next meeting?
Well, it's usually the second and usually the second and the fourth, but it was changed this year to the second and the last of each month. And then in October, there actually has 5 Tuesdays.
I had the 15th for some reason.
Well, the second Tuesday in October would be the 8th. We haven't been received any information yet from the office as to when the meetings are.
Yeah, the schedule was in January. The schedule is, you all received the schedule in January and it's on our website too.
Historically, the meetings have been the second and fourth, but for whatever reason, they're changed this year to the second and last. So hopefully next year we'll get it back to the second and the fourth so that the public will be on a regular schedule.
A year's notice, so.
Hmm.
It's a 1-year notice that you approved.
Yeah, I know. And it's slipped through one year. So the next thing on the agenda is our fire chief report. You want to go home, right?
Do you have to accept the fire chief report?
No, you have.
Okay. We have a new applicant, Andrea Hona, the French consultant on that one. I recommend his hiring. Please see the resolution. Did you want to do the resolution at that?
No idea.
Okay. We had a firefighter resign, Pat Scroop, as of August 29th. Again, please see the resolution. We had a few incidences. In July, we had 2. And then BC, the medical assist with farm equipment. In August, the tree on hydroline and also a remote rescue. We continue training with the NFPA standard. Hoping to have firefighters prep for 2025 for firefighter one, exam. I'm currently also looking into hazmat, training. There's different platforms. We require the ops and operation as a base for, MVCs. The other thing, the purchase of the UTV. On the 18th, accompanying the report to the CEO, I provided the administration the information necessary to process the purchase of the UTV approved from this year's budget. However, I instructed the administration not to process payment until the unit was in our possession. I've been to, Sturgeon, and, they had one UTV available on their lot. That was last week. I'm also requesting additional funds for helmets, the tracks. Originally, we had, wanted to wait for next year's budget for the tracks. I think it's a good idea in case we are in need of it for during the winter months. The tracks, the emergency lighting and the siren unit, during this budget. I'm also requesting equipment, to equip this unit with these features now versus next year, using the reserves. Tracks render the UTV or forces the emergency vehicle able to respond to emergencies to remote locations during the winter months, and the practicality of the transport equipment, firefighters during forest fires and other applications. So as I said, originally we wanted to wait for the tracks for next year's budget, but with the winter months and the excessive amount of snowmobile accidents, it might not be a bad idea to have it all this year. And the funds are there in the reserves. I've done 3 different quotes for the tracks, and they are all about the same price. The $7,682.87. Helmets, $720. Emergency lighting and sirens, $1,000. Radio and decals and the antenna, about $1,000. In total, $10,402.87. And again, see the resolution. And then the risk assessment is due from the province in July, is being worked on. And I'll set up a meeting with the CEO and CMC. Yeah, to complete and to move it forward to council for approval.
Can I have a mover and accept, and a seconder to accept the chief's report? Councilor Manson, Councilor Latimer. Manson and Latimer.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
I just wanted to mention that I'm not opposed. It's just for accepting the report.
Yeah, this.
Let me see here, what do you got coming up?
Well, those are for future resolutions.
All right, let me discuss it when the resolution comes
When
up.
we get up to it.
Okay.
All in favor? Carried.
Timing.
Yeah, that's why they're all in separate resolutions. Next resolution is council for the corporation and municipality of Calvin, accept the fire chief's recommendation to hire the following firefighter: Andre Barahona, effective September 24, 24. And further, the fire chief will submit to the CAO their home, cell, telephone numbers, email address, dates of hire, position titles, along with a copy of the DZ license if relevant to their role, and a completed federal and provincial tax form no later than October the 4th, 2024. Have a mover and a seconder. Councilor Manson and Grant. All in favor?
I just have a comment.
Okay,
I just wanted to ask a question, Fire Chief. Do we do any background checks on
We
firefighters?
currently do not. But that is something that we should put into practice.
Wonder if that's something maybe we consider in a future bylaw.
what access? You don't have access to, secure information. You'd have to submit it to the police.
So typically, when we hire staff, we're dealing with the public and not such a role as fire people do. We do require a vulnerable police check before they're hired. And you're saying that fire does not do that?
Not immediately.
Wow.
So I put in a requirement that police checks are, does that have to be this?
Part of the, it's part of a
Well,
hiring practice.
yeah, I mean, if there's something that we don't do, we don't do it. I just think that maybe, maybe that's something we're gonna do in the future. I'd support that in the future, vulnerable sector check.
It is done with staff and who are not delivering a service as the fire does.
Okay. That's
I know in the past, a firefighter who had accumulated several speeding tickets was told he couldn't drive fire vehicles anymore.
Yeah, so I don't even.
I don't
believe
know how
would-
that person found out about that.
Yeah, I don't even believe that wouldn't be
That would
captured,
be captured in the driver's abstract.
Yeah,
which we also don't request.
Do you request it?
No.
no,
But we should.
No, but
I do in another department, but it should be,
but that's what I mean, do you do it here? Because I would
No.
use the fire chief.
but,
so we'd have,
so, okay, my question would be, prior to hiring, would we request it because there's a cost to it? Would that be conditional to your hire?
And that one doesn't bother me as much, and I'll tell you why, because we train a person to drive a fire truck, there's supervisors, right, there's a fire chief.
Mhm.
We're available, we're aware of a person's ability to drive a truck. And whether or not they have a couple speeding tickets, so that honestly personally doesn't concern me as a counselor. I'm just more interested in vulnerable sector checks.
Both actually are concerning.
But
Because you're doing, the vulnerable sector?
yeah, but with
Should be
the abstract, I mean, one of the things I wanna be a little bit careful about, with what we do for hiring and checks is, if someone has some speeding tickets, let's just use that as an example, traditionally, we haven't had, an abundance of applicants, for our fire department, so I wouldn't wanna place unnecessary burdens on applicants. That's all, and speeding tickets to me are not, that's, somebody can still likely drive a fire truck very appropriately. But that's just my 2 cents.
So the vulnerable sector takes about a month to process. And they require, a letter from the municipality in order to obtain this vulnerable sector.
If I might, I think that the easy answer is that the fire department, who are employees, fall under the same requirements as all other employees, and that then solves everything. There's a whole package that I know fire doesn't deliver when they're hiring, such as the harassment policy, the vulnerable police check, the driver's license. We require that of all of our staff, whether they're part-time or full-time. And so we should
Can
be
you
treating fire departments just as we are staff, or even
We are staff.
more.
yeah, we are. They have,
So I would just transfer the file. I don't know what was done in the past, but to hear that you don't do that is concerning.
Yeah,
So I will transfer the package over, and for everyone who's on today, there are things like EODA, we have to take that training as a staff too, right? It's a must thing that everyone needs to do, so that whole package can then go to fire chief, so that she implements the same, and
Absolutely.
we can't issue, there are checks, I mean, when Anne was hired, even with all of her experience, she still had to fill it all in, come with us, and here's the check boxes, and hand that in before anybody, in this case, is paid. But in your case, they're not paid, so we need assurance from you that people won't be on as fire until such time as, because it's conditional, right? The hiring are conditional.
Okay. That's not an issue. As long as we're provided with the information.
And we do reimburse, so that you know, the vulnerable, any costs in that, we reimburse them
And they're not high.
in the higher.
Costs are
No,
not-
it's $40
It's
and,
well
Yeah.
worth the money.
but you know, especially in the case of, as you said, volunteer fire department, that it's not like they're pulling in a salary that's like a staff person might be, whether they're full-time or part-time, right? If we have
Yeah,
a whole other discussion.
I want to be cognizant not to
Yeah.
discourage good people from,
Yeah.
you know, wanting to
No.
join.
So they submit their invoice to us, or
Yeah.
that they paid it, and we reimburse them for it, so. We will just treat it as, you know, speak to the fire department as any other staff member, and that makes it easy, no policy requirements to change, no.
I like it.
And I think that's been overlooked because it's volunteer, but it's not volunteer. We're basically part-time.
And I think, you know, Marielle and I have had this discussion very recently for a whole other reason, but volunteer firefighters are employees of the municipality. It is the municipality's fire department. It's not its own separate entity with its own separate regulations, you know, surrounding staff.
That should be an easy fix, I think.
Very
Mhm.
fixed.
Well, now we're really getting into it. Scramble, because they weren't allowed to be employees when they created the union.
Yeah,
They weren't allowed.
But they
to.
are employees of the municipality.
Yeah,
by
but they're
law,
different
by
kind
law.
of
Well, act is a
employee.
different
They're
kind. Yeah,
different
it's not
kind
the
of
same.
employee. It's not the same.
It's not the same as. the-
how do you differentiate?
Yeah, in some communities they are.
That creates an issue, right?
We don't, we don't
Yeah.
need
We're
to
not-
create issues, we need to solve issues.
That's right. And that comment about the speeding, that came from the insurance company. Said that we're no longer gonna insure the vehicles of that.
And that's the concern too, if you have 5 or 6 speeding tickets and you have an adrenaline rush and you're into a full-size fire truck apparatus going down the road on, you know, a snowy night. That is concerning also, so.
So does any of this have to go on the resolution?
I
Is that gonna
Not
be
this
at the-
resolution.
I would bring back to the next meeting a CEO report so that we can make it official, so that there's no blowback from anyone that we're imposing these things, that the direction is from council and,
Fair enough.
you know, and we can do that on the fly right now if you want to introduce a motion that, fire department, volunteers, upon, I'll bring back the
How
next.
about if we leave it to the fire chief to bring it to the next, her next report about that, updating the recruitment file?
Well, whatever, let's leave it with staff, maybe for something for a future meeting, and then we can move forward.
Okay,
So regarding this resolution, are you happy with it? And are we've already got a mover and a seconder, are we passing?
I'm going to vote yes.
Yes. All in favor? Next one on the fire department is council for the corporation of the municipality of Calvin accept the fire chief recommendation to accept the resignation of firefighter Pat Schrute effective August 29th, 2024, and further that by way of this resolution, administration be advised for payroll purposes. Have a mover and a seconder. Counselor Manson, Counselor Grant. Any discussion? All in favor? All carried. Two more. Next resolution is whereas the council for the corporation of the municipality of Calvin has approved through the 2024 budget through the fire department capital reserve fund, $10,750 for the purchase of a utility terrain vehicle and $7,000 for the purchase of a hauling trailer with the balance of funds necessary to require these items contributed by the Calvin Firefighters Association.
The purchase of the UTV was supposed to be adjusted when we did our review of the,
the president?
yeah, it wasn't 10,000. She had put 10,750, but that's not what's half of the 27.
Yeah,
So it was, including the trailer, what was approved in the final budget was
7,000 was,
17,750. That's what was approved in the budget.
oh, I think it was
Yeah.
the, I think it was the taxes. You're right. It's all good.
and whereas the council of the corporation and municipality of Calvin accepts the fire chief's recommendation for the purchase of the UTV from Sturgeon Motorsports at the total cost of the UTV equipment, including taxes and licensing fee, to the amount of $27,558.84, with the purchase of the trailer to be made in the near future. And now therefore be resolved that the chief administrative officer be authorized to execute any and all documents, including obtaining the association's contribution funds to complete the purchase of these capital items. I will move her in a second. Councilor Grant, Councilman. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Carried. And the next one. Now therefore be it resolved that council for the corporation and municipality of Calvin accept the fire chief's request for $10,500 to be expensed this fiscal year from the capital reserves in order to purchase tracks, helmets, emergency lighting, decals, radio, and antenna for the newly acquired UTV. I will move her in a second here. Councilor Grant, Councilor Manson, any discussion?
Yeah, I just had one comment. I just, would like to, in the future, during budget talks, I think it's important that we capture the full costs of, purchases and that, sirens and helmets and radio to me should be captured in that initial budget talk. And I just hope that, I'm not opposed to approving the funds. I just think that all staff should make sure that when they, just to keep council informed, because, a lot of times we might miss something, we might be unaware of some future expense that maybe staff knows is coming. So just to have a better conversation around these extra costs, as we know they're going to likely be incurred, upon purchases. We know different with trucks or whatever, right? Things that we know we're gonna need, for those purchases, and just make sure that we bring that into budget discussion. That's all I want to mention.
It's the purpose of budget discussion.
It is, I'm trying to be very nice, because these things happen, that's fine, but we want to capture those. Council wants to be informed. I do, I think, want to be informed.
Any other comments? All in favor?
I agree with the comments from Councillor Grant. Surprises, $10,000 surprises are not, it's a significant ask. But yeah, I'm in favor as well, so.
All in favor? Carried. Fire chief, did you want to depart? I figured that.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Next item on the agenda is, East Ferris has extended an invitation to the corporation to attend the Remembrance Day services on November the 9th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. So by way of forwarding a copy of this resolution, they would be informed that if we decide to send somebody, who that person is, to receive the details as part of this agenda, and they would attend representing this council. The mover and seconder. Councilor Grant and Councilor Manson. Any discussion? I can tell you right now that the mayor probably can't go. And I can't go, I'll be out of the country.
I would be willing to attend if council deemed that appropriate.
Any other comments?
Just another request, do you want to lay a wreath or not? Because we'll have to purchase one. There's an opportunity to do so or to not do so in this case. Just have to let them know.
We have to approve.
Yeah, council would have to make a decision, but I don't know if it's, I mean, I'm willing to attend, on our behalf of show support for neighboring municipality that were there. I don't know if it's a requirement, either or not.
No, it's not, and that's what I'm saying. They just need to know to call it, whether or not we're attending with representation to attend or to attend to pose a wreath.
I'm gonna leave maybe some of those comments to other councilors. I don't know if they've agreed that they'd like to send me or, and then to what extent.
And last year I represented council in the absence of the mayor and later wreath in Mattawa, but we haven't been asked to do that this year. So if you want to go with this one, we can lay a wreath and it's kind of a nice gesture on behalf of our veterans. But what is the cost of a wreath? About $150. So it'd be a expensive about $150. No comments?
I'm in agreement.
I don't know what the general protocol is, so it's hard to answer. So if you're saying, you can do it or not, I'm just not sure what the normal custom would be, so I don't have much to comment.
In Mattawa, when you have $20 presented a wreath.
Yes.
Yeah, that, just because we've always done it in Mattawa, doesn't mean we have to do it in East Ferris. Like the guy, I know there's comment coming,
Okay.
just they had, what's the comment made? Just because we used to do it all the time doesn't mean we have to do it. Yes, ma'am.
Just as a big part as organizing and help organizing previous Remembrance Day ceremonies, you are able to get your wreath back. So, yes, it doesn't just stay there on the property. We remove them and they're given back to where they belong. So that wreath should be staying with the municipality of Calvin. Just saying.
Let's see, can we regift it?
Well, no, you just lay it down. It's just a display, honestly. It's not live flowers that,
Get some more,
Are you gonna be comfortable taking your wreath back for you?
well, no, they usually send it back to you again.
You always like that.
I can't say I'm highly experienced. I'd like to stick maybe with protocol would be nice. I mean, if Vladimir's willing to support it, I'm willing to support it as well.
I think if we're gonna go, it would be appropriate to give a wreath. If we're gonna go, so if we're all in favor of sending Counselor Grant, then I think we should all be in favor of sending a wreath. That's my recommendation.
So I think we should vote then on that
Okay,
as a package.
So if we can add, and then staff be instructed to purchase a wreath of approximate value of $150.
okay, and that, we already did it, right? Right?
Great.
We got a mover and seconder, so all in favor? That's about carried. That was quick. That's quicker than I thought. And we go Counselor.
Second.
I got 8.2 here.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to read this?
Yeah, I can go through
Yeah.
before you accept the report. Good with that?
Or do you want me to, this is the CAO's report regarding the library, so.
Sure, okay. So at the last meeting, instructed me to go get numbers of the number of residents from Calvin who use both the Bonfield and Mattawa libraries. Long story short, you'll see in the report that I did receive a response from the Bonfield librarian. There are currently 4 Calvin residents who pay user fees to use that library. The librarian did give me a little bit of history. Once upon a time, there were 20 Calvin residents who were patrons of the Bonfield Library. And she couldn't recall when that was, when Calvin decided to change its provincial grant allocation that we get under $1,200 from Bonfield to Mattawa. And she did say that then 20 Calvin residents were no longer using Bondfield services because they would have had to pay resident user fees at that time. She didn't know why council of the day changed the grant from Bondfield to Mattawa. They did outreach to both the John Dixon Library and the Mattawa CEO by email and phone to date of this report, and let's say today also, no response. So we don't know how many of the 200 and some residents who do use the Mattawa Library from the region are from Calvin. So that is, I have an analysis and some options to present to you. The John Dixon Library is closed until such time as a permanent location and an operating funding model supported by councils of Mattawa and its neighboring communities of Mattawa, Pepin, Cameron, and Calvin is in place. You heard that from the mayor and CEO at the last meeting. My recommendation to you at this time is that at least on an interim basis to ensure a level of service otherwise negated by the closure of the John Dixon Library, that council for the municipality of Calvin should consider its 2025 annual grant contribution from the province under $1,200 again to the Bondfield Public Library, and that we promote to Calvin residents that the library is available for their use, so that there's not knowing how many people in Calvin use the library in Mattawa, because we can't get that answer. And I should bring to your attention, I think I have in the past, that we haven't been able to get that answer in the 2 years that I've been helping. I helped last council to submit its library report to the province. And in fact, that resulted in not being able to submit the library report because we couldn't get the information only the library can give us to submit that report. So we have not contributed to the Mattawa Library for at least 2 years because we weren't able to get the information in order to submit the report to the province, so that we could be the flow through of that less than $1,200 to the Mattawa Library. A little bit of a history there. So I'm suggesting that we do submit this year in order to provide a library service of some kind through the Bondfield Library to our residents. And simultaneously, council was invited to attend and participate on an ad hoc committee to determine the vision and the funding model for the John Dixon Library by Mayor and CEO of Mattawa at our last meeting, so that you can gauge Calvin residents' library services needs, including their primary library host location. We don't know who uses Mattawa. We don't know where people would prefer to go. CMC has a short questionnaire that we need to send out by newsletter to all residents of Calvin. It includes a survey of the vulnerable sector population, because that hasn't been done in a long time either. There's an opportunity there. What I'm saying is to tag on a couple of questions if we wanted to tag questions on about library and where Calvin residents prefer to use, if that matters to you at all. May and it may not. So the resolutions which follow my report, one step at a time, are dealing with every one of my options and analysis here.
The first resolution deals with accepting her report. Over a seconder, Grant Manson. That we accept the CEO's report. All in favor? Carried. Next resolution, whereas the town of Mattawa has requested an appointment of a municipal representative, a council or staff on the John Dixon Library Ad Hoc Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that council for the corporation of the municipality of Calvin has appointed blank to represent the municipality, or has not chosen to appoint a member. And I need a mover and a seconder before we enter into discussion. Councillor Manson and Councillor Latimer. Any discussion? Councillor Grant.
I can go first. I'm gonna suggest that I don't think that I think it makes sense that we offer library services to residents. I think we can do that. This is gonna tie into this resolution. I think we can do that by offering services in Bondfield. I also think we could do that by potentially offering to cover user fees if someone wants to use Mattawa. I think that we should be aware and cautious, in my opinion, of covering going too deep into operating costs. I don't think we should be running a library. I think we should offer that service, and we do have options to do so. And I don't know if it's necessary to have someone sit on this committee. And, I'll leave it up to other counselors to comment, but, I think that we could easily not participate in the committee and still offer library services. And not engage in operating costs, which is where this is going to lead.
Anybody else? Councilor Manson?
I do have a question. Is anyone aware of the level of library in either situation? The John Dixon is closed, but they have a wealth of books, some amount, some library services. I mean, is one a better library or larger or more services than potentially the other? I've never been to the Bonneville Library, so I can't really say.
I can tell you that libraries are not about books anymore, just books, right? I'm a huge fan of libraries,
Okay.
so put that out there. And libraries, you can borrow books from any library in Ontario, so long as you're a patron at a library, if you're a card holder. So whether you're a card holder in Mattawa, Bonfield, East Ferris, North Bay, Timbuktu, Ontario, you can get the book that you want simply because you're a patron at that library. But more than books, libraries are now borrowing of other kinds of things. So for example, I know that in Bonfield, they have a seed exchange program every spring where people bring in seeds for gardens and exchange seeds. They have reading programs for younger students, younger children. They're doing a Halloween costume exchange program coming up. They do a lot of things. East Ferris does a snowshoe exchange. You can go borrow snowshoes. Fishing rods. I think at Bonfield are offered fishing rods. I may be wrong, but I don't believe Mattawa's kept up to that, and I don't want to say that for sure, but we don't see that published very often. And as you know, they both said, Mattawa Library's been in trouble for a little while. They have over 200, just a little over 200 patrons. That's less than 10% of the region that they serve, and Bonfield's number is much higher for Bonfield alone. So what happens at the library in Mattawa is not happening, whatever it is right now, and likely won't happen for some time until Mattawa Council determines the funding model and whether or not they want to support a funding of the library. Because the library is funded mostly by the municipality. The province doesn't give libraries a lot of money to operate. Most of that funding does come from the municipality itself, because typically they serve the municipalities, and the province's way of assisting municipalities that support. I did call Ontario Library Services. I've done in a many years, and so I know a lot of the staff there, and we talked about that, $1,122. How did you arrive at that? And what I was told is that amount was arrived at somewhere in the 70s, and that they're actually reviewing that amount. So it's not based on, these are the number of people who from Calvin use the services in Mattawa. That's why it's only like $1,122. No rhyme or
I can't, I don't know if you're still talking, Donna. I can't really hear you. The microphone's not picking you up if you're still talking. Are you done?
What we do know right now, though, is that there are no services available, library services to Calvin residents, regardless of how many of them may or may not use. We have no library services unless people want to go to Bonfield. Bonfield librarian, because I needed to be prepared for tonight, I asked what that would look like, and they're more than welcome to enter into an agreement with us for a 1 year interim basis if you should choose, which really just spells out that, we are, the library for us in 2025 for Calvin would be Bonfield, and that the provincial dollar be allocated. I can write into that agreement that they provide us with the information necessary in order to submit that application, where that wasn't part of the agreement, the longstanding agreement with Mattawa. Reason we can't get the information is it's not an agreement. We never have held a board position in Mattawa, resident or community from Calvin member. When I was here 3 years ago, I guess it would be helping the last council. The response I did receive when I posed that question to the Mattawa Library at the time was no, there's no place for Calvin to have a seat on that board. We know that that's all up for grabs now with Mattawa new council and mayor in place and what they're looking to do at that council. But certainly what we do know is there are many programs and services available to our residents. Should we choose to use the Bondfield Library this, wait and see what happens with Mattawa and bring it back to council.
I second those comments. I believe the Bonfield Library is well run and has been for some time, very stable, and I don't really think we need to get involved with the Mattawa, the politics around the Mattawa John Dixon Library. If they ever get it sorted out, it's going to be sometime in the future. We need to provide our citizens with library services, and Bonfield seems like the best option or the only option right now.
Take it that we are in agreement that we amend the resolution to read that the municipality of Calvin has chosen not to appoint anyone to represent the municipality of Calvin on the John Dixon Library Ad Hoc Committee.
I'm in agreement with that. I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, all in favor of that amendment? We have to agree, so that
We have to
actually
vote on it.
amends the original motion. And it's carried. Okay, good,
Carried.
We should vote
all
on
in favor? There we
it.
go.
Just vote just to.
Yeah, I always forget that. Okay, the next one ties into what Councillor Latimer. Now therefore be resolved, the council for the corporation and municipality of Calvin directs staff to enter in an agreement with the Bonfield Public Library for the 2025, for the balance of the 2024 and the 2025 fiscal year.
No, we can't do that.
Oh, okay.
Because the funding model actually begins April 1st.
So it has to be.
So we need to apply now in order, I asked whether or not we could do 2024 and no, there's a time to apply for that and we missed that because we didn't know this was going to happen. And,
So when I added library, it's not on the resolution, is that okay?
so it's that, if you read the resolution as it is written, it's valid.
With the Bonfield Public.
The Bonneville Public
2025.
Library. Oh,
Yeah.
you want to add the word library? Is that-
Yeah, I
sorry.
added it when
Right.
but I was checking to make sure it didn't change the context. For the 2025 fiscal year and request from the province that a result of this agreement, Ontario Library Services funds be directed to the Bonfield Public Library. And mover in a second, Councillor Manson, Councillor Latimer. Any discussion?
If I may, so at the next meeting, I will try to have that agreement in place, or at least in draft format to bring it to you for approval, so I can bring it forward to the Mattawa Library.
All in favor?
Sorry, just Bonneville Library.
Carried, all carried. And last but not least, on this topic. Direct staff to gauge residents' library service needs, including their preferred library host location through a brief community survey. And mover and a seconder. Councillor Manson, Councillor Grant, any discussion? Or-
I just, think it's great. I think it's great. I don't think it's necessary. I think it just, sometimes we, tend to do things and sometimes I don't think they're necessary. I just personally don't believe this is necessary. I think that what's necessary is to offer library services. Well, not necessary, but I think it's a good idea to offer library services. I think that we're moving forward with doing that. And, so I don't see a need for the surveying, personally, but that's my comments.
I feel the same, it's kind of redundant if we've already made a good decision, so it's,
Councillor Latimer?
Same. There is no other option. So why would we survey the residents' interest? Maybe in 2 years' time, we could do that.
They make about this is that it could be some people don't know it, that we do have a very small book exchange program at the town hall. And plus, unbeknownst to maybe some people on council, they've created a shelf of books at the Calvin Mall at the landfill site. And then taking books and putting books there, so it's almost like our little, there's not very much room in here, but there's a whole big shelf at the, in the Calvin Mall, so maybe that's, by mentioning it tonight, people will find out about it and make use of it.
It's been in the.
Oh, yeah, good.
And I just want to say that again, I was bringing all options, not knowing whether or not you want to sit at the Mattawa account table or not, because if you sat at the Mattawa table and they were talking about what kind of library services do you see as a need, this was the time to maybe do that. So this one is defeated.
And we're all in favor to defeat it,
Sure.
all in favor to defeat. Save the township or the office staff some paperwork. Leave next in line is our public works director.
The transition.
I don't know, my shoulder's been really sore, and picking this up is kind of.
As Councillor Grant had mentioned at our last council meeting, it is slightly confusing when you're not really eating and breathing this information on a daily basis as to what's going on with the provincial government mandate. So council had already opted in that they would become a contractor to circular materials. So the province has said that they're going to make sure that blue box materials will be collected evenly. So right now, for instance, our municipality just got glass recycling, where the entire province will have glass recycling, fiber. There will be no more confusion when you move to one municipality to the next. It'll be a common collection system. Part of this common collection system was that circular materials had won the tender to the province of Ontario to become the person that directs this program. Through that, they've gone through and asked municipalities if they want to opt in and be part of the program or would like to continue paying for their services without any provincial help. Part of that program, that opting out would have meant that perhaps they would not have chosen our depot in Calvin and that they could have placed a depot within 1 hour of the municipality. So they kind of tied the hands of councils and we opted in. So when we chose to do that, we still supplied the level of service through our employees. And the province pays for that service. However, there are ineligible sources now, which includes our own municipal office, provincial parks. I can't explain the census to that, but that's what the regulation states. And actually it is a slight wording loophole, and that's how it has come to now. When the agreement was first presented to council at our last council meeting, I was still kind of chasing the information as to get back on speed. And noticing through the agreement that they wanted to actually, because of us supporting Louder Township as an unorganized township, as well as we were allowing commercial entities to use the recycling depot, they consider that uneligible sources, and they want to actually remove 25% of the monies they were willing to give back to the municipality for providing the service. When I first seen the number, it was 8.45%, which they considered commercial. And I kind of had a hard time digesting that just from when you drive around and see what's within our municipal boundaries. That 8.5% of our properties are listed as commercial. And further investigating with MPAC, those 8.45% properties were a bell tower, Trans-Canada Pipeline, the railway, 6 aggregate pits. These are unmanned commercial properties which do not produce recycling. However, the justification for that is meaningless to the province. However, there was a condition that you could survey your landfill for 3 days of the month, which would generate what our landfill would bring in a month. And it was found, and we were actually able to drop the number from 8.45%, then they found out about Louder, so then it went to 25%. We got the number to 5.5%. So the number would have been that they would have removed $377 of the cost that was owed to the township for providing recycling services. We got the number dropped down to like $83. I think the $83 is reasonable to continue the service for the provincial parks, commercial businesses, and to our neighboring unorganized township.
During a transition period only.
Right, after December 31st, 2025, commercial entities, the municipality of Louder, the municipal office, our own parks, the land, actually the recycling depot was part of the commercial equation.
Cemetery. We forgot
The cemetery.
one. Yes.
We're no longer, they're not going to collect it, period. End of story. We cannot pay them to take it. We cannot, they will not offer us a difference in cash for them to take it. So somehow we have to figure out what the municipality is willing to do with that commercial recycling, as well as our own recycling. And we have to figure that out before the end of December 31st, 2025. It would be simple to say that we could just leave this matter for a further discussion. However, our municipality offers agreements to provincial parks and some of our commercial entities for recycling and landfill use. Those agreements are coming up due next year in April. And I wouldn't want to have the municipality re-enter into agreements that we cannot provincially mandated agree to. So as we move through the process, I have to reach out to Miller Waste because the subcontractor that won to remove all the recycling is GFL. They won the tendering process through the province. So we're not aware if Miller Waste is still going to be accepting recycling material, if only GFL will be accepting recycling material. And as their entities, are they willing to accept commercial recyclables? We're unaware of those answers at this moment, but we're working through the process to find out what we can bring back to the municipality. I'm getting dry. There are options that we do know about, like we could provide a separate collection service at the recycling depot, which is hard to justify when we have to pay rental on a bin by the month, and if we only use the bin and fill it in a year. Unfortunately, I don't know the data to tell council, like how much tonnage is commercial tonnage, etc. So it's hard to say, like, is the municipal taxpayer willing to take on the burden of allowing commercial businesses to recycle?
And non-residents.
And non-residents. We could provide separate collection, so still put a bin there, only for commercial, for Louder, for ourselves. And then we could figure out a cost implication to that and bill back to the residents of Louder and the commercial businesses. However, it was brought to my attention, historically, we do not have information on the unorganized township of Louder as to residential information, and we are not privy to that through impact, through any information. Option 3 would be that we could terminate Blue Box services to non-eligible non-eligible sources. However, what happens to the recycling material? Does it end up in the landfill and we still provide the landfill services? I know from living in larger cities, for years and years, actually, commercial business has had to do their own recycling. However, we still don't know what that looks like at the receiving end of the recycling facilities. So my recommendation tonight to council is to enter into the agreement with CMO for the residents of Calvin and to continue the non-eligible source acceptance of recyclables at a cost of, it's at a cost of $83.77 as opposed to what they would have paid us. And then we can continue to work forward and to figure out what sort of options are available to the municipality, to the residents of Louder, as well as our commercial entities. However, tonight's recommendation is purely on the agreement with CM, Circular Materials.
Lots to unpack there.
Yeah, sorry.
Good job in distilling that down, going through, fighting with them, getting that down to the $83, doing the survey. That's all excellent. Thank you. And distilling down some good choices for us to make. So at least, we have some good direction. Looks like this year's a no-brainer, probably. Just we go and,
Yes, the transition doesn't occur until April 1st of 2025. So that's when all of the agreement starts to be in play. And then the end of the transition period, they're calling it, is December 31st. But like I mentioned, the agreements that we currently have, we have to review those and ensure that we don't enter into other agreements that we can't get out of because of provincial mandating. And these are not decisions that the municipality chose to make. These are provincial decisions and provincial legislation. These are outside of council's decisions. Just the agreement this evening and the options we have moving forward.
And that'll be very important moving forward, right? That we promote this in the fashion that it needs to be, and that this was not a council decision to no longer accept kiosk and, if that's, those recyclables, as an example.
Second.
I have a couple questions. I think you answered them. I don't understand the logic behind not accepting the commercial and non-resident. I thought recycling was sort of a money-making thing. That seems to contradict the save the planet idea of recycling. And I guess we don't have any choice but to enter in this if the province is going to pull our funding for managing a recycling depot. So we're basically, I wouldn't say blackmailed is quite the right word, but we're certainly manipulated into it. And what happens at the end of, how long is the contract? And what happens at the end of the contract? Right now, it looks like we'd save about $2,200 a year, but what's the guarantee that whatever they're called, circular something? What are we, basically, they've cornered the market, so then what are we going to be faced with at the end of the term? Anyways, I know the questions you can't answer, but I appreciate and your explanation was really good. And personally, I don't agree with the whole concept, but it looks like we don't have the choice. So.
A few months back, you also passed a motion disagreeing with many of the things in here, including ineligible sources being commercial, particularly because to worry about our own commercial, and we, along with many others across Ontario, we're not alone in feeling this way. Every municipality is in the same boat, but you did, as a council, already object to, just so that you know, formally, we objected to the ineligible business aspect. Province doesn't want to accept provincial sources. That's easy. Let's not accept it, right? Let them figure out how they're going to get rid of their recycling material. To me, that's an easy thing, but we're not here to discuss that tonight. That one, you've already, and so they presented us now with the contract. And as Anna said, by reviewing the impact document, we're able to say, wait a minute, these are not actually, recycling. We're not going to get any recycling from the cemetery. We're not going to get recycling from the train track. So we're able, Anne was able to bump that down, and a lot of residents are safe right now until December 20th. Sorry.
Just to clarify, we have a few options. Is this future discussion?
Yes, it is, Councillor.
Okay, well, I'll just.
Yeah.
I don't have to get too deep into it then. I'll save that for the future, but I do think, that, to me, there's a logical path forward here, but, wow, kind of.
Well, the first resolution is just to accept the report. I need to move in a second. Counselor Madsen, Counselor Gladwin. To accept our public works, report. All in favor? All carried. The next one's the meat of the next resolution, whereas the Public Works Superintendent has worked with circular materials and recycling staff to lower the percentage of non-eligible sources during the transition to producer responsibility. And whereas Circular Materials has amended the agreement from 25% holdback of cost to 5.5% holdback of cost for non-eligible sources until December 31st, 2025. And whereas the current level of service provides recycling to non-eligible sources and the proposed 5.5% would require a cost of $83 per month from April 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024, which is not unreasonable to continue this service. Therefore, the Public Works Superintendent, in consultation with the CAO, recommends to council that the municipality enter into an agreement with Circular Materials to operate the Blue Box program as a contractor to Circular Materials on the basis that the financial compensation is considered acceptable and the municipality of Calvin can continue to provide service to eligible and non-eligible sources during the transition at the current recycling depot location with minimal service level changes. And further, that the Public Works Superintendent will provide council with options and the financial impact of how to proceed with non-eligible sources on January the 1st, 2026 at a meeting of council in November 2024. I have a mover and a seconder. Counselor Manson, Counselor Grant. Any discussion?
I'm just wondering on the wording, is, if it says, whereas the middle, the third paragraph, at $83 per month from April 1st to December 31st, 2024, should that,
Yes,
should that be 2025, correct?
too many years and
Okay, I'm just clarifying, because that's the set rate till we get to
that,
2025.
Any other comment? That's it, that's a minor.
That's a minor thing,
So
but that's
means the,
it's important.
cement.
no, it doesn't need to be a full resolution. I see no other, hands going up. All in favor? All in favor, carried. So this is the agreement, the next one? Oh, sure, go ahead.
I didn't read this one.
Well, I just heard.
Yeah.
I wrote the other one.
I already went through that.
Whereas council for the municipality of Calvin has received the superintendent report entitled Background Report for the Agreement with Circular Materials Ontario on September 10th, 2024 during the regular council meeting and opted to defer to the next regular meeting. Whereas CMO is the administrator of the common collection system for Blue Box material. And whereas CMO issued an offer to the contractor in connection with the collection of Blue Box material at depots, and whereas contractor and CMO jointly desire to enter into this agreement respecting the collection of Blue Box material at depots for the applicable eligible community, and whereas the contractor agrees to provide the work in accordance with the terms and conditions of this agreement, and whereas in consideration of the promises, mutual covenants, and agreements contained therein, and other good and valuable consideration, the receipt and sufficiency of which is hereby acknowledged, the parties acknowledge and all agree to all covenants, terms, and conditions as stipulated in this agreement. Now therefore be resolved, council of the corporation of the municipality of Calvin hereby approves this bylaw 2024-57 to be read, enacted, and passed to the 24th day of September 2024 and that the deputy mayor and CEO are designated as signing officers and are authorized to execute on behalf of the corporation of the municipality of Calvin, that the attached agreement be hereto and form part and parcel of this bylaw, that any other bylaw inconsistent with this bylaw is hereby repealed. This bylaw shall be enacted and effect upon signing thereof. As you can tell, very not done by us resolution.
Move in second. Counselor Manson, Counselor Grant. Any other comments?
Your worship, I would like to make one more.
Oh, I need to make an amendment?
No, I
Okay,
just want to mention that in the agreement, there is windows where you're able to amend the agreement or renegotiate the agreement. It's just a 30-day notice. Just to go back to what Councillor Latimer had commented on.
that's all part of your,
Yeah,
coming back with the option, right?
yes.
All in favor? All carried. Here. I can do this one.
Oh, I filled them all. Sign them both then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's probably a better one, if you printed it, I just printed it.
We have to put this to them tomorrow because they'll be on phone at 8:30.
Oh, yeah.
That's all carried. Next is the ABCs, Conservation Authority minutes were posted on the website. The last meeting was, September 13th, but I've been out of the province, so I wasn't able to attend. I'll get the minutes for the next meeting, which is gonna be in the middle of October. Planning Board,
Don't think we've had a meeting since the last meeting. I don't have anything to update. We haven't had a meeting since last meeting.
and there's been no meeting for positions recruitment because the mayor is still off sick. OPP Detachment Board,
Meeting is tomorrow. I have recommendations that there's a resolution from council to present and should be an interesting meeting. See what happens. I'll report at the next meeting. It's tomorrow at 7 o'clock, I think.
go back to the Conservation Authority, the next meeting is October the 9th. I just had to look it up while you were giving the surgery. Your meeting's tomorrow?
Yeah.
We have a closed session, okay. So the next, portion of the meeting is a closed meeting. So the, Council Corporation of Municipality of Calvin hereby moves into closed session at 7:40 PM. To discuss matters pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees, and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality. I will move over to seconder. Councillor Manson and Councillor Latimer.
I'll stop the recording.
Well,
Get around the observation on that.
yeah, I was waiting. Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried.
I'm gonna stop it.
Is there a link to? Oh, never mind. So this is a closed meeting, or do we sign?